Interviews with business owners and veteran executives who share their wisdom and expertise to help you de-stress, free up time, and make more money. Profits of IT. Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I am Jim Punzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System, looking to generate new leads of partners or end users. Be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com. I have Marc with me today. Marc is the CEO of Veride, and Marc has been growing a great business by growing great people. He founded the business with his brother, and Marc is currently the CEO. Marc, please introduce yourself and tell us a quick bit about Veride.
Yeah, hi, Jim. First of all, great to be here with you. You introduced me as kind of growing great business by growing great people, and I would say, what Veride is about is really about that. So we're based in North America. Our head office is in Toronto, but we have offices in Chicago and Cincinnati and different places around the continent. Our focus is digital transformation, but I would say digital transformation with a twist. And what do I mean by a twist? I mean that we focus on actually people helping companies build software over the long term. While projects are great, we're big believers in that your software really needs to have a long-term roadmap if it's going to have success internally or externally. So that's a lot about what we're about. And we'll talk more about that later because we do some other things. We have a software product as well, which we can talk about. But I know we'll get to that later on in the podcast here. So
cool. And what's something interesting about yourself outside of work? I see that it looks like you're sitting in a cottage or a cabin of some sort.
Yeah. So one of the great things about COVID is all of us have learned to work in different places. And so, as we were talking before the podcast, my family, one of my cousins, bought some property up here in the 30s. And as a child, I started coming up to this area. And early on in my career, when we had children, my wife and I, we actually bought a piece of land with a small cottage. And, we've been, coming up here for, almost 30 years now. And this, what you see here in front of you is kind of evolved into my office. My son actually worked from here last summer and built this called a bunkie, right? It's kind of a sleep house you have by a cottage. And so I've adopted it and now claimed it as my office. I have good enough internet that I can work up here. And so it's about 2 hours from home. So it was an easy trip and just love spending time up here.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
So Marc, what do you contribute your success to in business, or what might you say is your superpower, and how can others learn from that to be more successful themselves?
Yeah. Well, my parents were teachers, so I'm way too humble to call myself having a superpower. But let me, the one thing I would say is what I try to focus on, and I think it works for sales and managing people, and it actually works in life, is really work on your relationships, right? So, I came out of university, I was kind of focused. I went to a kind of a math computer science program, and I graduated. I didn't really want to be a kind of a coder, right? So, but I got a bunch of my friends went to work at this company, and they all got into sales, and that was kind of the last thing on my mind. And when I joined that job, one of the things I learned early on is I probably wasn't going to be a great salesperson, but I knew I could build great relationships. And so I found that I had my most success when I was less focused on selling, more focused on being an active listener and building a relationship with the people that I was working with, my clients. And then over your life, you think, well, gee, you know what? This is the right thing to do. It's for your family, your friends, your employees, people you manage, people that you work for. And so I would say that, the number one thing I've learned is just keep working on relationships. If you build great relationships, lots of great things will happen to you.
Building great relationships. So do you have any tips for doing that? Like, how can I improve on my skills at building great relationships?
Well, I think you do a lot of it, Jim, because you're you're the guy asking questions, right? But I think for all of us, it's, showing interest in the other person's perspective, by being curious, asking questions, actively listening and responding to what they're saying. Now that has that balance. You can't just, you can't do it as an inquisitor, but if you're curious and you show an interest in somebody and they reciprocate to you, what's they're likely going to do because you're building a relationship, you have a platform. And then one of the great things about that is if you start being an active listener, you're supportive and you're there for people, being present, then, eventually, whatever the situation, you're going to have some rocky times, right? You have them in business, you have them in family, you have them in your social life. If you have a good relationship, you can actually have a great time in the good times, and even in the tough times, you can always fall back to the relationship you've built. You have some trust, and it makes it easier just to get things going.
So the establishing the relationship will help in the rocky times that so you can get through them. It sounds like. What else? Any other tips as far as improving relationships? I guess maybe it'd be with customers or with employees.
Yeah, well, let's talk about maybe just two other things I think that are really important along the actually maybe different lines.
Sure.
But it works for relationships as well. But I think the one thing, I've been an entrepreneur for a while now, and it took me a while in my career to understand the roller coaster that happens in business. What do I mean by roller coaster? I mean, like you experience, right? You have some these really incredible times where things are going great. Oftentimes that's followed by some kind of a lean time.
Yes.
And it's only through experience you trust that, kind of that cycle, that roller coaster cycle. If you keep doing a good job, if you're building relationships, then you'll come out of the valleys. That roller coaster, you'll come out of the downturns, and you'll be solid. But it takes a while to learn that trust. But what I've learned is if you keep working, doing the right things, you're good with people, then you'll actually be able to manage the roller coaster. Just trust that, life doesn't go on a straight line. We all know that. It doesn't go, nobody has straight success. Everybody's got their own issues. But you learn to trust that, that is followed by good and vice versa. So that was one. The other one I would say is, you have to understand the difference between ego and confidence. So, and sometimes people confuse that, right? That, to be successful and to be a leader, you certainly have to be confident, but you don't need to have a big ego. There's a difference. And what do I mean by that is, sometimes people, if you have too big of an ego, you're not making room for other people to shine, right? And, I think fundamentally as a leader, you actually have to let that happen. You have to let your clients shine. You've got to let your people that work for you shine, or anybody in the room for that matter that has a good idea. You have to be open enough to let them shine. At the same time, being confident in your own ideas and confident in your ability to contribute. So, I think figuring out for yourself and how to kind of separate your ego from your confidence, that I think is another important thing that I've learned that people should be thinking about.
So separating your ego from your confidence and allowing others to express their ideas also, it sounds like.
Yeah, if you think about, if you build a team, the way you're going to grow the best is if everybody's successful. If this is, you opened the beginning, we talked about great companies are made, with great people, and that's our goal, to try to grow great people. Is the more people can grow in your business, then you actually have some scale. So you don't want, you try not to have one person being singular for success, because that kind of creates a hero dynamic, and then everybody is kind of subservient to the hero, and it's hard to replicate that. You got lots of eggs in one basket if you build businesses like that. I think you'd rather have a lot of great people who are growing with their strengths. You mentioned superpowers. Hopefully you've got people with different superpowers that complement each other, but at least let people grow individually and blossom. I guess the portfolio, the skills that we got. So, that's the other thing I would say.
Got it. Any final thoughts on this?
No, maybe just one more. Probably a departure away from relationships is, I I think people should always be seeking for being smarter and working smarter inside of a company. So, it's actually okay to take shortcuts. Sometimes shortcuts are great because it helps you work more efficiently. And so you shouldn't, this is the same point I was making on software, is you shouldn't think that your business is a finished product ever. It's like individually, right? You have a lifeline, and a lot of us grow lifelong. We learn different things. We're always reading books and we're developing in some way. So in business though, you might have a sales process that works now. This is kind of what your business is a little bit, I understand, right? So if you continue to evolve your processes and get better, you're smarter, and you can improve your organization. And actually, it's also interesting that if you continue to change and evolve, you actually keep your staff engaged, right? Because the worst thing is you put a system in place that helps your employees one day, but it never changes for 3 years. Eventually, it's taken for granted, and likely it regresses at some point in time against what's available in the marketplace. So I think people should always be looking to be a little smarter. It's okay to look for shortcuts. Obviously, there's work. Sometimes you don't have shortcuts, but if you can find them, you can actually create a lot of exciting things in your business.
Definitely. So opportunity for an ask here. Who should reach out to you? Why should they reach out to you?
Yeah, I think there are two kinds of people I'd like to talk to. So if you're a business leader or an IT leader, and you find you've got software that's not meeting the needs somewhere in your organization because either hasn't been updated or you're lacking features, you should talk to me, because I think what we're trying to do is help you build a roadmap so that you can keep pace with your clients, your customers, your suppliers, whatever that domain is. And we can teach you how to apply these techniques to create some long-term growth in your IT ecosystem. That's one. So if you're in that space, we'd love to connect with you and talk more about either how we can help you or just give you advice. We don't need to have a client relationship with you. I'd be happy to share my ideas if you want to do that. The second one is, so we have a software product that fits in financial services, insurance, and banking and wealth. And it's specifically designed to help those organizations grow by giving marketing tools, marketing platform to field agents, like an insurance agent, like a wealth advisor, like somebody who's in a branch in a bank. And one of the things we think is one of the most untapped ways to go to market is by having your field teams actually do unique marketing. And we've built a platform that allows people to move from generic marketing to very, very specific personalized marketing programs. So talk to me if you're interested in that.
Cool. And how would they reach out to you? What's the best way of contacting you?
Yeah, I think there's a number of ways. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Marc Lamoureux. I'm sure we'll provide the spelling here. I can also provide my email address. It's marc.lamoureux@verde.com. It's MARC. So I'm French Canadian by background, so it's a C, not a K for Marc. And then my last name is actually one of the more popular French names in North America, because there's been US female hockey players and a bunch of folks that have shared my name. And I think they're from your area. I think Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Lamoureux sisters. But Lamoureux spelled Lamoureux.
Cool. Or what's the website?
Yeah, verde.com. So I'd love to see you come visit us there. You can also contact us with verde.com. You can follow us on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. We're pretty easy to find if you're looking for us.
Well, thank you, Marc, with a C. It's been a pleasure having you on today.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great day.
And until next time on the Profits of IT, I am Jim Punzenberger, your host, the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. If you're looking to generate new partners or new clients without cold calling, ad spend, or spamming, be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Profits of IT. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and share.